Hi, I'm Renee Stanley with West End Cable 10. We're at Nicholson Towers tonight premiering a special program called Illusions of 1983, a retrospect of the life of Vancouver Impresario Hugh Pickett. Thank you for joining us.
Bijou!
Coming!
You must play the piano very well.
Not well at all.
We should get you to play the piano.
All right, I'll play Falling in Love Again, Marlena's song.
Yes,
Okay.
wonderful.
I don't play it well.
See that.
Okay. I've never done it
So what?
in front of anybody.
Oh, terrific. I'd love to
Okay.
see it.
Want to buy some illusions, slightly used, second hand. They were lovely illusions, reaching high, built on sand. They had a touch of paradise, a spell you can't explain. For in this crazy paradise, you are in love with pain. Want to buy some illusions, slightly used, almost new. Such romantic illusions, and they're all about you. I'll sell them all for a penny. They make pretty souvenirs. Take my lovely illusions, some for laughs, some for tears.
To be deported, so the court says.
But you must
Don't
realize...
feel sorry for me, Curly. The next island will be wonderful. Bijou will sing again, and the cafe will be full. And may an angel take my place here. It'll serve you right.
They had a touch of paradise, a spell you can't explain. For in this crazy paradise, you are in love with pain. Want to buy some illusions, slightly used, just like new. Such romantic illusions, and they're all about you. I'll sell them all for a penny. They make pretty souvenirs. Take my lovely illusions, some for laughs, some for tears.
I'm a bad influence. As your way, big boy.
the only one that was ever made. It took about 5 women to make the thing. The dress is all beads, and it goes right up to her neck, and it looks like it's a light chiffon, and it looked like she was bare, and that the beads were all just on her. It was an amazing illusion. But it was all, those beads were sewn onto this beige chiffon, which was dyed the color of her skin, which was quite a creation. That was $7,000, that dress.
Full length.
Yeah, and dragged across the ground behind her.
Really? That would be nice.
She always wore it for her entrance, and then got rid of it. You know, took it off so that she wasn't stuck with it. But she didn't ever wear anything like that off the stage. Nothing.
Is this the one-woman show that she did?
Yeah.
Her tour?
Yeah, it was just a Marlene Dietrich in person.
Did she enjoy that tour?
Oh, yeah. She did it for years, 15 years, all over the world, all over Europe, all over Australia, South America. And the records that she made in those countries when she was there, somebody would always get her to make a record.
That's Marlene as well.
Yes, that was done by an English artist, litho. And this was done by Hirschfeld, who does all the New York Times caricatures. That's a new one. That's just, there's only 200 of that. Someone sent it to me from New York.
Marlene is still alive, is she?
Oh, yes, she's very much alive. No, it's just a caricature. He did it out of his mind. But no, she lives in Paris, and she has a broken hip, which didn't heal too well, but she's very feisty, and she's writing and carrying on, same as usual.
So you know her quite well?
Oh, yeah, for many, many years.
What is she like?
Wonderful woman. She's not just a silly actress. She speaks 5 languages, plays the piano, plays the violin, has written 3 books, and I just think she's one of the brains of the world. And she's not really interested in all that image that was created of her. Well, those pictures that were taken of her, there's a picture now taken by George Hurrell in 1936, which just sold in Los Angeles for $20,000. And it's just a photograph, and it's signed by Hurrell, who is a great, great photographer. But when you think of a photograph selling for $20,000, that's what they used to pay for art. Now, of course, art is $500,000, so everything's relative. In the 30s, when the Nazi movement started, Marlene came to Hollywood in 1930, and when she went back in 1932, she saw what was happening, and she thought it was horrifying. And she got a lot of her friends out, like Erich Maria Remarque, the great writer, and many other people, Frederick Hollander, who wrote all the music for her films in Germany and wrote the music for her American films when she got them out. But she was declared an enemy of the state because she was so vehement and blasting the Nazis for their policies that they declared her an enemy, and they confiscated all her property, and that's why during the war she went to work for the American Army and worked through the 3 years of the war. Didn't earn any money. She could have made many films, but didn't, and worked with the soldiers all over the front.
And she entertained?
Yeah.
She sings?
Yeah. She had an accordion player with her, and she played the musical Saw, and it was very funny. She's got a great sense of humor. But she got every medal from America, from France, from England. And then when Israel was declared a state in 1947, she went there as the first artist to go and worked free. And she has a medal from Ben Gurion for her work. I mean, she's really more than just an actress. She's got a mind and a great heart.
What kind of novels is she writing now?
Well, not novels. She wrote a story. She wrote one thing, Marlene Dietrich's ABCs, things just describing it. Then she wrote her own story, which has not been published in America yet. It's been published in Russia, in German, in Yugoslavia, and in Sweden.
Did she do the translations?
No, she wrote it in English, and it was translated by the countries that bought the book. I've read it. It's an excellent book, but it does not go into her love life. And so Putnam's the the publishers in New York are really mad at her because she hasn't revealed all the things that went on in her life.
Black market, sneak around the corner. Black market, peek around the corner. Come, I'll show you things you cannot get elsewhere. Come, make with the office, and you'll get your share. Black market, leases for the missus, chewing gum for kisses. Got some broken down ideals, like wedding rings? Shh, tiptoe. Trade your things.
Good night.
Good night.
There's more to being a gentleman than wearing tight pants. When a lady says she is ill, she is ill. And a gentleman doesn't go around looking into windows. And one more free piece of advice. Stay a sailor. Sailor.
I'll trade you for your candy, some gorgeous merchandise. My camera, it's a dandy, 6x9, just your size. You want my porcelain figure, a watch, a submarine, a Rembrandt salami, black lingerie from Wien. I sell my goods behind the screen. No ceiling, no feeling, a very smooth routine. You buy my goods, and boy, my goods are keen. You like my first edition? It's yours. That's how I am. The simple definition. You take art, I'll take spam. I'll give you for your ration my passion, and maybe an inkling, a twinkling of real sympathy. I'm selling out, take all I've got. Ambitions, convictions, the works. Why not? Enjoy these goods. For boy, these goods are hot.
That's the original piece of music that I bought when it first came out. Let me see. This is the last concert that Arthur Rubinstein played in Vancouver. He was 89 years old, and he said, I lie about my age. He said, I'm really 90. He was a very funny man. And he used to talk about reviews. He'd say, how do they know? He said, I deliberately played wrong notes. He said, most reviewers just reviewed. They thought, well, since he's the greatest pianist, he must be perfect. And he said, often I was not. That's it. You might have heard it before. I have found that in this business, everybody that has hit it great is funny. They've got to not take themselves seriously. Take their work seriously, but not themselves.
So what sort of things do you like to do now? You want to work with a certain type of person who enjoys their work and
I want to do
enjoys
about
you.
a couple of concerts a month, and that's all.
Mhm.
I don't want to do any more than that.
And with the rest of your time, you want to travel and what else?
Go visit people.
I suppose you have so many friends that you can...
Well, people kept saying, come and stay, you know, you never come. So I thought, okay, I'm coming. I stayed with Mary Martin in Palm Springs and Ginger in Rancho Mirage and had a ball with them.
I'm going to move away from the pictures you have to your own work with the stars. How did you get started in that?
Early in life, I was in Los Angeles a lot when I was in my teens and knew a lot of the people in the film business. My father had a steamship business, and after I got out of high school, I worked for him in the steamship business for 15 years. And then the war came, and I was in the Army. And after that, I was back in Los Angeles. And a friend of mine here, Holly Maxwell, worked in the concert agency that existed then. And she phoned and said, we need a press agent, PR for the Theater Under the Stars, which was the outdoor theater in Stanley Park. Was interested in it very much, came back and did it, learned it. And the press were marvelous to me. They helped me a great deal. And from there on, I worked in that office. And that company folded in 5 years. And Holly Maxwell, this gal friend of mine who brought me here from Los Angeles, and I took it over. And that was in 1950, and I've got it still going, Famous Artists Limited. But I learned one thing. This is Saul Hurok, who was the great impresario in New York. And Mr. Hurok really was our mentor and guide. And we took all his artists each year, and he told me what to do. I went to New York, and he didn't know me at all. And he was very good to me, and he said, you've got to let the public see that they are great stars with the flowers and the whole thing, star quality. So I learned that from him and did it. And it's paid off, because now we have Leontine Price coming in here in January, but she's doing this concert here as a favor to me. They are loyal too. If you treated them well and you became their friend and they knew you were a friend, they were loyal. Today it's different. Nobody's loyal to anybody, and nobody cares about anybody, and you never get to know anybody. They're in one day and out the next, and then you never hear of them again. We had the Rolling Stones here, and we had Elvis here. And then Elvis and his manager, Colonel Parker, were really, I thought, both of them great. They were not like the rest of the rock. At the beginning, when he was started out to be really big, he wasn't into liquor or dope or anything. He was a nice person.
Were you able to bring him to Vancouver?
Yes, he was at the football stadium, Empire Stadium.
When was that?
It was during the PNE. Oh God, it must have been in the early 60s.
And the Stones, when were they in Vancouver?
The Stones were here, I'd say 15 years ago, 12 years ago, and they were in the Coliseum, indoors. That was another riot, but not inside the building. The crowd who couldn't get in just wrecked the building. They broke all the windows and the doors, and that was another mess. Would you like to sit on a chair so that we'll be even?
Oh, we did have a road, yeah.
Here's cigarettes.
I wanna be loved by you, just you, nobody else but you. I wanna be loved by you alone, boop boopy doo. I wanna be kissed by you, just you, nobody else but you. I wanna be kissed by you alone. I couldn't aspire to anything higher than to feel the desire to make you my own. I wanna be loved by you, just you, nobody else but you. I wanna be loved by you alone.
anything about it, but he loved music. And he got a hold of Shelley Appin, who was the greatest singer of the day, and talked him into letting him take him on a tour. Because they didn't tour, they were in New York, or they were in London or Paris, but they didn't certainly play Portland or Seattle. You know, and he got those tours started. He was older than he looks in that picture when he died. That's a good picture of him.
Was that sort of close to the time he...
That was 3 years before he died, and that's taken in his office.
He became seriously ill and he passed away?
No, he was having lunch with Rockefeller and dropped dead at the lunch table. Boom. Wonderful way to go. Perfect for him. He deserved that. I think we all deserve that, but we don't get it.
We don't all get it. No, we don't. No.
I think something went wrong in the invention way back there. Didn't work quite well.
That must take a long time to get over the...
Just a minute, he ripped the page out that he'd signed for me, which was one of the front pages, signed to him and gave him a book. He says, I'll get one for you later.
I couldn't aspire to anything higher than to feel the desire to make you my own. I wanna be loved by you, just you, nobody else but you. I wanna be loved by you, the deedly 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 dum, poop poopy doop.
And I said, don't you have anybody that you could send out to us that would pick this thing up? And he phoned back. He said, well, how would you like Igor? Being ignorant, I didn't know Igor. He said, Stravinsky, stupid. He didn't want to go out and play that concert, but he enjoyed it. And Hurok, who had handled him forever, was a friend of his. He said, look, I got a friend out there that needs help. That's what happened then and doesn't happen now.
Helping a friend and getting to know people that way.
And then then his office had to design posters, brochures, all the advertising, the mats for the newspapers. They were always better than any other agency. They were always beautiful. Yeah. He had the heart. He had a thing in his head that he was European, and that if he was in Paris and this American company came, he would go to see it, because he promoted it like mad over there. See, Marian Anderson, who was the greatest black singer, she was the only black singer, was singing in Paris. She was an American. He heard her sing in Paris, and she was a young girl. He brought her to America and made a huge star out of her. Now, at one point, she was going to sing in Constitution Hall in Washington, D.C., and the Constitution Hall was owned by the Daughters of the American Revolution, the DAR. They would not let a black singer sing in it. So he got in touch with Eleanor Roosevelt. She had Marian Anderson under her wing. She sang at the foot of the Lincoln Memorial, and there were 50,000 people there, and the picture's still used. They still use this picture. He just absolutely blasted the DAR, these stupid women who didn't want blacks in their hall. And he changed it. The whole thing turned around after that. When the president's wife is on your side, it was... Another time, I was in Los Angeles, and we were broke. It was about 1957. Some things had happened that were bad, and he said, how much do you need? I said, $5,000. He just pulled a checkbook out and wrote it. Not his company, a personal check. About 6 months later, he was in San Francisco, and I brought the check to pay him. He said, he took it, but he said, I didn't loan it to you, I gave it to you, but if you want to pay me, okay. He never had asked for it.
Yeah. So
he knew that we were honorably interested in the business, and that's what his interest was. He had no private life, no personal life at all. He didn't do anything but work with artists and find new things, and he did it all. He had a foresight about what Europe would like to see from America and what America would like to see from Europe. He brought the American Ballet Theater to Europe for the first time. They'd never seen that kind of ballet. Ballets like Fancy Free and the Lizzie Borden thing. They couldn't believe it was totally different to their Swan Lakes and Giselle. When they came to New York, he would buy all the girls a new dress because they had terrible clothes coming out of Russia. Mm-hmm. And the boys would get a jacket, pants and a jacket, slacks and a jacket, at his own expense because it was absolutely his own company. Nobody had any money in it but him until he sold it to General Motors. No, I'm wrong. It's General Electric, not General Motors. Electric. They were just buying companies right, left, and
center. The reason
center.
I ask is because I'm interested in General Electric right now because they've taken over another aerospace company or whatever.
Yeah,
so
it's General Electric, yeah. They've also taken over a movie company now, so it turned out to be a big deal. But he really wasn't that happy then because he really wasn't the boss. Mm-hmm. When we started to make a little money, I was with him in Los Angeles, and I said, now what about 1950? You know, you didn't get paid for Marian Anderson. He says, don't worry about it, don't worry about it.
How did he get to know what was happening on each continent? Did he just by attending
He'd go every year to Paris, to Rome, to Vienna, to London. Well, he'd created Margot Fonteyn, you know, she will go down in history as the greatest ballerina that ever lived. Well, before he took over that company, her name was Peggy Hookham to start with, and she was just in the corps. He'd made a fortune, but he took a risk because there were 40 people in the company. When he said, she was a fabulous dancer, but nobody in England paid any attention to her. She was just one good dancer. He said, I got to have one girl out of this company when it comes to New York. He picked up on her. And he paid Life magazine $20,000 to put her on the cover. Now that did it. Everybody bought Life magazine in those days, and right across the continent. So that when that company went to each town, everybody knew who Margot Fonteyn was. And he created her, and she says so in her biography. Mm-hmm. Eventually, when he was older, when that picture was taken, he had sold the business to General Electric, but they kept him on as the boss. That was the first real money he had, and 3 years later he died. The last thing he did was that tour he did for Maria Callas, which I did.
You're pointing at something in here?
Over here in the corner. She was supposed to be such a devil. He phoned me and he said, she's going to do a tour. I want you to take her. Well, her fee was $40,000. I said, Mr. Hurok. Nobody ever called him Saul. Everyone that knew him called him Mr. Hurok. What if it doesn't do business? He said, believe me, it'll do business. Well, it did. But the people were not coming to hear the world's greatest singer. They were coming to look at the woman that had slept with Onassis. And then he married Jackie Kennedy because he also was a big phony. He just wanted notoriety all the time, and he had the money to get it. But she died the year after this tour, and she was absolutely marvelous to be with. Quite soft and sweet, not tough or hard at all, but she had the reputation for being the world's prized bitch.
I've never thrown anything at anyone, though sometimes you feel like it. No, tantrums. It's not even true. It's just certain situations. I told him I'm not well. Now, something might come wrong. Who is my double? Nobody can double Callas. Oh, so you take the responsibility of saying, we will not substitute her. And he says, of course I will. When the time came, he said, Callas is capricious, she won't. What am I supposed to say? I was sick, I could not continue, because if I was well, I would have continued, and I was spit in their faces at my enemies. And if I can make my enemies I would not kill them, but if I could make them go on their knees in front of me, I can, I will, and I must.
And we did the concert, and she got a great ovation, and it worked great. I mean, she wasn't singing that well, but, I mean, who cared? Nobody went there to hear her sing. Then we came here on the plane together, and we had one day before the concert, and then the concert the day after. But Giuseppe decided he's going to commit suicide.
Why in Dallas and not here? That's something I'd like to tell him. Why doesn't he do these performances at the Met? And I would be there with pleasure. But in any case, very best wishes for triumphal success.
Now they had the inhalator and the whole thing. They put him in an ambulance, took him to St. Paul's Hospital, and the guy told me, he said, he's bluffing. Naturally, I'm hysterical because I don't know what's going to happen with the concert, because she can't sing the whole evening. So I phoned Mr. Huroff. He sent another guy up here. I went out on the stage, which I hate to do, and have to announce that Mr. DiStefano had a fall. Well, nobody really cared anyway. 20 minutes after I had done this and the thing was going along, he walks in an open shirt, terrible beat-up pants, and walked right on the stage while she was singing. Stopped her. She had a pianist. She just glared at him. Your guess is the strangest thing, Tallulah. One morning I woke up and there was my daughter, 3 years older than I was.
Look at that.
There's Tallulah at the party.
Oh.
Look at her.
Oh,
and then come backstage and carry on, and Marlene said, oh, Christ. She said, get rid of her. I can't stand any more of it. She said, what does she do? Bring the liquor to the theater? She was pissed. This is what would happen on the stage. And that's the coat.
Beautiful.
Look, they threw flowers. Of course, we arranged all that.
Punk rock.
Here we are. This is what I'm looking for. Look at her on the top of the car. Every night for 6 weeks, that went on in New York, outside the theater. See, the first night when we came out of the stage door, there was this mob, and there's cops trying to clear the street because the traffic couldn't move. And she pulled herself back and grabbed me into the door, and she said, shut the door. She said, no, we got to think of something. There's 2 cops out there. Go get them. I did. I pushed my way through there. I said, would you come and help Miss Dietrich get out? Well, she knew what she was doing. And she got to the limousine. She said, lift me up. They'll crush me to death. Well, she didn't give a damn if they did. They lifted her up and put her on the top of the car, and the photographers took all the pictures. It never happened before. Yeah, here we are. This was here in Vancouver.
Oh, that's nice. How old is she?
I said, oh, for Christ's sake, Marlene, you know what we've gone through with this coat now, so, which was all ridiculous. She was just having a scene.
She was very immaterialistic, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Like she used to just throw her beautiful fur coats on top of old sandwiches and everything.
Oh, I'll look in here and see if I can find quickly.
Oh, great. I can't believe what you've got here. Remember you tried to find me a picture of Marlena with that sable coat on?
The white coat.
The white coat.
No.
You didn't find that?
Sonia Henny. You know them all.
Yeah. What tribute?
This was a thing, I went to a dinner in Los Angeles, tribute to Adolf Zucker. It was his 100th birthday, and he was the one that brought Marlena to America, and they gave everybody one of these. It's got every name on it that he ever had at Paramount.
Oh, is that ever neat? Should have that framed.
Yeah.
That's neat.
This somebody brought us. Long Venus.
Really?
Marlena said, get rid of it. I used to inherit a lot of stuff. People would bring her things. She didn't want any of it.
She led such an active life. How come she's a recluse now?
Well, I'll tell you. That's, well, she says, Garbo walks up and down Fifth Avenue every day scaring the population of New York. I'm not going to do that on the Champs-Élysées. But,
Champagne? Dom Perignon, my favorite. Dancing, music, champagne. The best way to forget until you find something you want to remember.
that's the last one she did, and that has not been played here. I mean, it's not been sold here. It's the last record she'll ever make.
Just a gigolo?
Yeah. Now, on these things, we're at the Malkin Bowl now, aren't we? Okay. That's a day shot of the bowl. This is a shot of a rehearsal. We used to go down to the bowl in the morning on Saturday and do an orchestra rehearsal for the show that was coming up. Now, so that the first time they've heard the orchestra. This is Gordon Hilker, who was the producer and the starter of the Theater Under the Stars. There I am, and there's Ada Broadbent. They really originated the whole thing, and if it wasn't for Gordon Hilker, he's here now in town again. He's been all over the world. He did the whole of Expo, in charge of all entertainment, and he's now living on Nicholas Street, right here in the city. Great man. Well, as you can see, there's a mob in the Malkin Bowl. We had 4,000 seats, and when it was good weather, the seats were filled. And here you have the Queen meeting Dorothy Davies and Ada Broadbent, Harry Price, and these are the two stars of the show. There she is entering the Malkin Bowl with Dorwin Baird, our president of the board, and we had this red carpet out and great big gold and red chairs for them to sit in. Now, these two people with their back to the camera, Carlu Carter and Bill McGrath, were the stars of the premier ballerina and dancer of the Winnipeg Ballet. They had come here to do this show for us. And Lois Smith was in our chorus when she started. She became the prima ballerina of the National Ballet of Canada. These two girls here, Peggy Ray Norman and Cheryl Morton, both from Vancouver, they went to Vegas right after this and danced in the show with Marlene Dietrich. And Marlene danced between them because they were doing high kicks. And the trick was, if she leaned on them, her leg would go as high as theirs. They taught her the trick because she had never danced before, but she said, if they can do it, I can do it. And she did it. There's wonderful shots of her high kicking.
There's your family.
Yeah, that's it.
There's your family.
That's it. What are they doing in there?
They're having a fight.
Oh, good. Now, those are the two most popular people that ever appeared in the Theater Under the Stars, and we brought them back many times. As Susan Johnson, who was a big Broadway star. Susan was the most popular with the public, any show that she was in, they'd sit through the rain. That was the one person you could guarantee they would not leave, because if they left within an hour of starting, they could get a refund. But after the first hour, if they stayed, they couldn't get a refund because it was raining. So Susan was really a marvelous asset to us, because most people would not leave. She had such a voice and was such a comedian. That is an interesting... that goddamn other phone.
Hello, Mom. If Olga calls again, stall her for me, will you?
Yes, Mr. Moss. It's just that sometimes I don't know right from wrong. I wish you'd help me. Is it a crime to save a wee baby bird when it falls from its nest? That little bird should have a chance to fly like all the rest. If it's a crime to have old ladies cross the street, then put me in jail without bail. Bread and water from an old tin pail. If that's a crime. Now, if I know something, and by telling it to someone in distress, I could change that someone's life and bring him the bluebird of happiness. Is it a crime to tell him, or is it a crime not to? Is it that you mustn't, or that you've got to? Should you say, hey, bud, watch out for that banana peel? Or remain silent and then laugh? As he crashes with a thud. If I have a job and I see it through, and it's just my duty that I do. You. Hello, we're on the phone. Oh, yes, Mr. Romeo. Juliet Capulet's called. See what I could have done? Now, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But if I got that message through on time, I'm telling you, those two kids will be alive today. So if it's a crime to help old ladies cross the street, then I confess I'm just a mess. Mother and Dad, you were wrong, I guess. Oh, say thank you.
Stop the recording. Stop the recording. Are you going to stop there?
That's the Oscar. I'm sitting here like I don't know what I'm doing. What can I know?
Yes, you knew you were.
Obviously, you're not a sailor.
That's a little bit long.
If it's a crime to help old ladies cross the street.
The following intermission feature is from Illusions of 1983, celebrating the life and accomplishments of Vancouver Impresario Hugh Pickett. Three key figures in the history of Vancouver's theatre under the stars discuss its past and future in light of its home's devastating fire of 1982 that made its future very much an open question.
Join us now as Anne Hayes talks with Gordon Hilker, Barney Potts, and his wife Thora Anders about the entertainment scene in Vancouver.
Gordon, you're an international entertainment producer. You've done shows all over the world, in the United States, and of course, famous Expo of '67. Tell us what brings you back to Vancouver, and how did you get involved with Hugh Pickett?
I went into the concert business and then theatrical business in Vancouver after I graduated from university.
Is that when you had the 5 pianos?
No, that was much earlier. I was born in a house with 5 pianos, and once every month we had to haul 300 chairs up the basement stairs and set up 3 rooms that were open together, and we had a recital. And when I graduated from university, it was like bottom of the depression. I couldn't get anything to do, so I thought I might as well try the experience I had as a kid, so I started putting on a few shows.
That's terrific. When did you become involved with Hugh?
Well, it really was a result of Holly Maxwell. She and I were working together, and she met Hugh, and she kept telling me that he was just the right person to put some life into the business. And so one day we said, why don't you try it? And he did so well that then everything went from there.
Who were the first celebrities you brought to Vancouver? Can you remember?
Yeah, the first artist was a return of a very famous singer, Gallicerci, who many years before had been a great star. And she decided to have her make a revival at an age when she should not have done it. And it probably was one of the worst concerts ever heard in this city. And it was kind of a shock to me. I was very young. But I got a little tougher afterwards.
How long ago was that?
Oh, this is back it's 47 years ago.
The Strand.
Strand, yeah.
Yeah, we used the Strand and an old auditorium which was down on by the ice rink on Lower Georgia Street, with long since dismantled. Yes, but the Strand was the main house, and also the Lyric. And then, of course, later on we were allowed by famous players to go into the Orpheum, which gave us bigger capacity.
Is it hard to make money in this kind of business?
Yes.
In short words. You were involved an awful lot with the Malkin Bowl, I know.
Yeah.
I don't think it started out as Malkin Bowl, did it? Weren't you saying, Thor, that it started out...
Well, that's what I understood, but Gordon corrected me backstage. He said that wasn't really Theater Under the Stars at all. Gordon can tell you how it really started.
I was out of work in the summer. Just the concerts were just in the wintertime. So I thought, why don't we use a Malkin Bowl? So, and Mr. Malkin had built it as a gift to the city, and it was being used for free concerts for the symphony, which was fine. But I decided we should build a fence around it and charge admission, which caused a riot in the city, I might say. And I didn't have any money, so I went to a wonderful man, Chris Spencer, head of Spencer's department stores, and he put up enough money, with no thanks, I might say, to do this. And we put on this great concert, and we had, with Vancouver Symphony Orchestra and John Charles Thomas starred and so on. We only had about 1,000 tickets sold, and so we thought we had a disaster on our hands. And that night, it depends on if you want to read the press, there were some place between 35 and 40,000 people showed up. Couldn't handle the money hardly, and I was running around. I had 50 men guarding the fence, but everybody was determined to get in. They came down with wire cutters and planks and everything, and threw the planks over the fence and so on.
Well, I guess it's such a novelty being outdoors and under the stars. It's
That's it, nice, and it was their park.
That's right.
And they didn't want admission charge. But anyway, we held the fence until 8:38, so we got all the money. So we got about 16,000 paid admissions, and then Basil Horsfall, the next year, came over from Vancouver Island and said to the Vancouver Parks, if this chap can do it one night and get 16,000 people, we'll put on these local shows for about 18 nights, and that'll be 18 times 16,000. He forgot that he didn't have the symphony orchestra and Charles Thomas, and anyway, they pulled me into it, and from then on we ran the Theater of the Stars.
Great. I know that you two have had some wonderful experiences under the Theater of the Stars.
Yes, we have, and I know that we're here especially to honor Hugh Pickett. And so I'd like to explain that little figurine.
Yeah, you gave this to me backstage, and we're quite intrigued by it. It's quite old, isn't it?
Yes, it's me. Hugh gave it to me in 1947 on opening night, well, after the opening night of Anything Goes. I sang a song in that called Blow, Gabriel, Blow. And that's the closest thing to Gabriel blowing a trumpet, I guess, that Hugh could get. Isn't it, darling? But Hugh was wonderful. He was the most enthusiastic audience. He worked there, of course, with Gordon, looking after all sorts of details. But he was so enthusiastic, and he made us all feel like $1 million. And when he'd come backstage to see you at opening night, he treated you as if you were a New York star.
Are you still working under the stars?
I'm not working at all anymore.
You're not?
I retired quite a while ago.
Do you remember the night the lights went out?
Well, the rain came a lot quite often, you know, and we tried to get a retractable roof, but the Parks Board at that time couldn't see any further than
now?
Well, it couldn't, and so we didn't have that. But we're doing this one show, and all of a sudden, all the lights went out, and they didn't know what to do about that. So Basil Horsfall was the conductor, and I leaned down into the pit. I said, "You got a match, Basil?" And he didn't understand that at all. I said, "Well, just get them, those cars up there to put on their headlamps." And I was doing a nightclub act at the time, so I did my nightclub act and told the people, you know, soon we'll get back to this show, whatever it is, as soon as the lights come on. That was fun doing that sort of thing.
Coming from the cars.
Yes, they asked cars to drive up on the lawn and put their high beams on.
And I'd be on the stage when the 9 o'clock gun went off, you see. As soon as that went, everybody in the audience are going. So I said, it's 9 o'clock, and as soon as you check your watches, we'll get on with the show. I got balled out for that, Gordon.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Oh, the audience probably appreciated your humor.
They loved it, but Equity didn't like it.
No, they didn't like it at all. Not at all.
Didn't you have to back onto a stage once, Thora?
Oh, that was, I didn't really back onto the stage.
No.
But it was right in the middle of New Moon, and the great George London, very, very famous baritone. He was my leading man, and he had to pick me up in his arms in this moonlit scene, and we had a cottage with a little door, and he tried to open the door, and it jammed, and he couldn't get it open, so he turned me around and used my rear end. And the audience just burst out laughing, and it spoiled all the romance.
Got a big laugh?
Oh, yeah.
I wish I did that. Yeah. I didn't get any lines like that. Sure.
You teams are always jealous of each other.
Yeah.
What can you see a future for the Theater Under the Stars, all three of you?
I'd love to see it.
What sort of a future do you think we have for the Theater Under the Stars, and that type of an environment, that type of a
Well,
theater?
there's a great future for outdoor musical theater production in Vancouver under the right circumstance. The soft shell houses that are being built everywhere. We built one just last year in Knoxville for the World's Fair there. It's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful shape.
Is there any interest in the city?
Oh yes, a lot of people have seen it, and there's it's a whole field now. Practically everything is being covered, because even in the Sun Belt, they cover them to keep the sun out.
We get rusted here, that's down there.
But it has to be top quality, professional, or it won't work. The standards in the city are too high for anything else.
People were wanting to get into the shows because of the quality that they built up. And we got quite a good reputation, didn't we, Gordon?
Oh,
We went
yeah.
to
All over the
New
world.
York, and they wanted to
There was
join.
a continuing element that Thora has touched on, that Hugh was the person that understood the artists.
Yes.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And that's a hard thing, that's rare. And he didn't coddle them, but he made them feel important, and therefore they accepted discipline. And that makes a performance that's just that little extra bit better. And that is I mean, Hugh did a million things, but the important thing he did, the vital thing he did, was to lift the hearts of the artists. And that's what was his great contribution.
And that's what Hugh is still doing with everyone.
And I think we could give him a standing ovation.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I'm sure he would just love it.
Yeah.
We're going to now move on to the next part of the show, and see where it's going to be proven to us that Hugh has been very successful. And we're also going to see more of Malcolm Bole. I'd like to thank you very much for coming down this evening
Thank
to talk
you,
with
Anne.
us.
Thank you, Anne. It was lovely.
Okay, good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
They transplanted Saskatchewan farmers in Tanzania. But the best fun they had was ordinary plows. Ox drawn?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Down among the sheltering palms, a honey wait for me, a honey wait for me. Don't be forgetting we got a date out where the sun looks down the valley. How my love is burning, burning, burning. How my heart is yearning, yearning, yearning to be down among the sheltering palms, a honey wait for me.
I think if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not a pro at what that is, don't do it. You know.
So you enjoy just working with the stars themselves and their needs and how they perform.
Yeah. I don't want to get into the act. You know. You know, when you have to present flowers to somebody, I always get one of the ushers in the theater to do it. I don't want to go out on the stage. I think it looks stupid. It looks like you're trying to get seen by the audience.
Maybe you are.
Yeah, mostly.
The ushers just love doing it, I'm sure. They really appreciate that.
And the reason I come down here to the banks of the Fraser River is to get away from it all and be alone. And once a year you got blackberries. And nobody comes here to pick them. I pick a lot of them. I'm amazed more people don't know about this place.
Well, that makes it pleasant for you, doesn't it?
It does, because there's almost never anyone here.
We have our lunch down here.
Lunch?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, we brought.
You did?
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God. You look at everything. It's like
berries,
Hollywood.
Champagne glasses.
Down among the sheltering palms, a honey wait for me, a honey wait for me. Don't be forgetting we got a date out where the sun goes down the valley. How my love is burning, burning, burning. How my heart is yearning, yearning, yearning to be down among the sheltering palms, a honey wait for me.
You know, everybody crowds onto English Bay and Kitsilano Beach because there's sand there. Well, there's sand here. Nobody goes near it. Sometimes you see some kids down here fooling around with the dogs and the bikes. They fly all over this thing on those sand bikes. But very seldom. It's really usually very quiet. Across the river there is
the English countryside.
Yes, it does. It's not like Vancouver somehow. You know, when the garbage strike was on, down here further, people dumped all their garbage, just dumped it out of the car on the road. All these millionaires living up in the bank were getting this god-awful smell from the garbage. See, these houses are the great houses of Vancouver. Now the airport is there, and those planes start revving up at 6 in the morning. And where I live, they wake me up.
Do they?
They must knock these people out of bed, practically. This is right at the airport's right behind those trees.
Yes, that's true. You were here, you grew up in this area, excuse me. You grew up in this area.
Yeah,
You've been
I used to
here for
come
quite a
down
while.
here when I was going to high school. And we'd come down here on bicycles after school and run around over the sand dunes and fool around.
Did you go swimming in the river at that time? What was it like then?
Well, you'd come out dirty, but it didn't matter.
Well, it was
You'd
just
go-
mud, yeah.
It was colder than the water at English Bay, but there was nobody here, so it was, you go skinny dipping, do anything.
Did you go skinny dipping?
Yeah. You know, kids when they're like 12, 13.
You had a very pleasant childhood.
Oh, yes, it was great. I liked McGee High School, and Tom Alsbury, who eventually was the mayor of Vancouver, was my class teacher.
Has the area changed very much?
Not really. Hasn't really changed. All this junk that's in it wasn't there, but they're trying to fill it all in now, make it level.
What is this?
That's Pacific Nomad. That is one of the fish boats that's going out. Yeah.
Oh, here comes the wake.
That's the lowest tide I've ever seen down here. Usually it's right up to these logs. Yeah. How about that? You'd almost think that they were looking for oil.
Too bad.
Yeah.
What were your dreams when you were younger?
Before 12, I lived in Marpole on French Street and 64th Avenue. It was in the days of Joan Crawford and Garbo, and even before Clark Gable came into the picture. I used to go to town when I was 8 years old with 25 cents. 10 cents got me into the Capitol Theater in the morning, and 15 cents bought my lunch.
You would stay there all day?
Practically. And when I was being disciplined for not doing what I was supposed to be doing, my mother would say, okay, can't have any money. And I'd walk into town, and it would just burn her. Then when I got a little older, I would go to 2 movies every Saturday because I'd do more chores and get more money. But my mother didn't believe in giving me money just for nothing. You had to do something for it. Because in those days, nobody had any money. It was during the Depression. And she later said, well, you appreciated it more when you earned it than if you just got it, which is true. I have a 12-year-old godson whom I spend a lot of time with, and he has special chores he has to do, and he can't wait to do them because he knows if he doesn't get the money. You go play video games, which is different to the movies.
Do you play video games?
No.
That's the big rage now.
I'm not smart enough to. He is.
But it's interesting you went to so many films.
Oh, yeah. All the films. When I was 15, all the kids were caddying at golf courses for the summer jobs or picking berries. I didn't want to do that. So I got a job working in the Colonial Theater, and I worked there for 3 summers, and then I worked nights. But then I spent 15 years in the steamship business, which my father had. When I was 24, I went around the world for 14 months. All the steamship companies gave me free trips on the boats. And we had Dutch lines and English, American lines, German lines. So as soon as I got to New York, everything was free because I went across on the Normandy, then went through the Mediterranean on a Dutch boat, and came back from the Far East on the Empress of Japan, which was a Canadian boat, and it was all on the house. So it was a wonderful experience.
Working with your father, you got to know these people?
Yeah. You see, they always wanted him to go on trips, and he would never do it. He was too busy to do all that stuff. So they said, well, why don't I go? It really was a great experience.
Are you still in contact with these people?
There was nothing much to do after the war, and my father, a lot of people were coming back from the Army and Navy, and that's when I went again to Los Angeles, and then I came back here and went into the theater in 1947.
Do you remember much of your tour around the world with the steamship?
I kept a diary, brought a typewriter with me, and it's very interesting now because of the prices. I thought of that. I put in the prices of the hotels and the meals and the theaters, and so you read it today, it's not to be believed what the prices were so low. But I had a camera, and when I came home, everybody wanted to see the pictures. Well, all I ever took was theater marquees. Ginger Rogers in The Life of Vernon and Irene Castle in Paris. It was called La Grande Farandole. And in Norway, she was in a picture called Having Wonderful Time, and it was Alla Tiders Ferie in Norwegian. And I took all these pictures for Ginger. And they said, well, what, did you take the Taj Mahal? I said, no, you can buy postcards of the Taj Mahal. So I never took anything except theater stuff. I was in the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo with a friend of mine who I'd met on the trip. She was the head of the art department at UCLA. She'd been there before, I never had. And it was one of the 5 or 6 great hotels of the world. We're sitting in the garden drinking gin. I took a picture of her, she took a picture of me, and that's all we took in the whole trip into Japan. 2 weeks in Japan. That's it. And people were appalled. They said, wow, all the shrines and the tombs. I said, oh, God, they're interesting to look at, but what do? You take a picture, and the postcards are 10 times better. You know, I went to Russia, the Russian government brought me there 4 years ago for 10 days. That was all taken care of by the Russian government. I had a guide, and her job was to show me all the gorgeous art and things in Russia. I didn't want to see it. I wanted to see buildings, people, theater. And she said, thank God I don't ever want to go into this museum again, because she'd been used to taking people who would be hours looking at pictures while she's standing there dying. She said, oh, great. What do you want to do? I said, I want to go get some caviar and champagne. Well, now, since the government was paying for it, oh, God, she loved me. Because she just signed everywhere she went. She had a little red leather thing with a card in it. She just showed it to them and then signed, because she was a member of the government. So she never carried money, nobody tipped anybody, which is a marvelous idea. I don't know what the hell we're tipping people for.
Why were you in Russia?
Because we brought all the Russian attractions into Vancouver, and the Russian government gave me a treat. They wrote a letter from Goss concert in Moscow and asked me if I would care to come as their guest. Well, yes.
Was Russia a pleasant tour for you?
Wonderful. Loved it. People go to Russia and say, oh, I couldn't eat the food. Oh, the food was terrible. Look at this thing. The food was terrible. I said, the food was marvelous. It was different food. Why go to Russia and want hot dogs and hamburgers?
What kind of food did they have there?
Well, there was very little meat. You didn't get steaks. You didn't get roast beef. But there was tons of food. Great sturgeon, which you don't get here. Chickens. But not a lot of meat.
Why not a lot of meat?
Because there's not enough cattle to kill. They'd love it if they had enough, but they don't have. I landed in Moscow and went immediately to Leningrad on the train with this girl. It was loads of fun. And after, about 6 days with her, she leveled. She said, I have a wonderful job. I'm fine. But she said, if I didn't have this job, I'd rather not be here. She said, I want to take you to the Kremlin at 8 o'clock in the morning. Just come. So we went in the car and parked across the street from the main gate. The limousines are driving in. She said, do you think we don't have more than one kind of car? That's the government officials. I said, they live differently to anyone else, which is the same everywhere. It's no different. Berezhnikov had a house in Leningrad, but he preferred to get out. It was totally pleasant. I can't stand people that go to a foreign country and say, oh, I couldn't eat the food.
Now the next one is a love song for a hot summer day. It's called Lazy Afternoon. It's a lazy afternoon, and the beetle bugs are zooming, and the tulip trees are blooming, and there's not another human in view but us two. It's a lazy afternoon, and the farmer leaves his reaping, in the meadow cows are sleeping, and the speckled trout stop leaping upstream as we dream. A fat pink cloud hangs over the hill, unfolding like a rose. If you hold my hand and sit real still, you can hear the grass as it grows. It's a hazy afternoon, and I know a place that's quiet, except for daisies running riot, and there's no one passing by it to see. Come spend this lazy afternoon
afternoon with me.
Every night was a different atmosphere in the bowl. You'd hear boat whistles, the 9 o'clock gun would go off. The peacocks would scream and the seals would bark. And we had a 25-piece orchestra there, and it was really an event for the people of Vancouver. And I would say it was the happiest time of my life.
Really?
Yeah.
It must make you really sad to look at this place now then.
They used to have a concert in the afternoon by one organization and then a band concert at night. So the thing was used constantly. And we had to lock up all our costumes and everything, props, because the orchestra would be on the stage for those band concerts, but it would be down here in the orchestra pit for the shows.
And you managed it for what, for 8 years?
No, I managed it for 3 years,
For
and I
3
was
years.
the press agent for 15.
Oh, I see.
Probably you'd think we were crazy, but those kids couldn't get paid anything. It was ridiculous. Eventually, they did get good money.
Yeah.
And the man who was my boss when I first went into the business, Gordon Hilker, in 1947, ran the Vancouver International Festival. And I still was with Famous Artists, which was my company, but I went to work for them in the summer, so I never really had a summer off till this year. 34
You're
years,
kidding.
that's right, and I loved it. I didn't want any time off.
Was it always this color?
Yes, it was. Only it would
When
look
was
better
it?
than
When
that.
did it burn
See how
down?
it's all rotting at the ends of the pipes there? I like that. One of the great architects of the city, Ned Pratt, offered to build a roof over it, a dome that was retractable. And the Parks Board wouldn't let them do it because it would spoil, in quotes, the look of the park. Well, what does this do? That really killed us. That was their excuse. It would spoil the look of the park if it had a dome over it.
Always interested in the arts and in artists?
I was always interested in artists.
In artists, yes.
I'm not really what you'd call an arty person in any way, you might have noticed. I really don't go to symphonies and I don't go to operas unless I have a friend that's involved in them. Then I'll go. It's the people that interested me because they were always brighter, seemingly, than other people. You know, I think that they were dedicated to what they were doing, and so they learned a lot more than other people had about what was going on in the world. You know, the university wants this set of programs for their library.
Is that right?
How much are they paying for?
That's what I said. That's what I said. No free gifts to the university.
It's fabulous inside. Have you looked through it? I
Yeah.
mean, really.
Well, it really goes back. I don't know what year
This
that
is
was.
the
Does it give a
47
date?
on this one.
47,
Yes,
the
it's the
Desert
beginning
Song.
there.
Who was in it? Some people that are still quite...
Here's the cast right there. Right there. It's listed there.
Paul Kligman works in television in Toronto. Paul Elmer, Fraser Lister in Toronto. Jerry Nagle was a famous dancer. Carl Norman is still in town. He works for one of the concert agencies. Jimmy Johnson directed most of the shows. He's still working at CBC.
Yes.
Lorraine McAllister is Dal Richards' wife, and she's still around. I don't know what the rest of them were. Now there's a marvelous man. Tom Alsbury, he became the mayor of the city, and he was a help. He was not. You know, when Jack Wasserman died, he was cremated immediately, and 6 of us came here. Len Locke, Chris Payton at CBC,
yes,
Herb Capozzi, I can't remember the other two, and myself, and we each took a handful of his ashes, scattered them around the Malkin Bowl.
Really?
Because
I didn't know
Jack
that.
started his career.
I him.
He started his career at 14 years old selling programs at the gate for 10 cents.
Oh.
And then his wife appeared. Fran Gregory was in 3 shows we had, and he was here almost every night. He loved it as much as I did.
Yes.
What was his name, Jack?
Jack Wasserman. He was the great columnist of the Sun. We stood over under that tree, drank some champagne. Everybody put their hand in the urn and took out a handful of ashes and went their own way. And I dumped mine right in front of the plaque.
Oh, gee. And that makes it even more special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think just because Jack was cremated and his ashes were thrown here, that they should do something. He did so much for our city.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have a children's hospital if it wasn't for him.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
It's too bad.
You know an awful lot about the city.
Hmm?
You know a lot about the city.
Oh.
You've done your homework.
No, I haven't done any homework.
Well,
I'm interested in the city. I'm interested
but
in
you've
people.
read and you've absorbed.
Yes. Yes.
I have 2 friends leaving for London tomorrow, and they're going to meet my friend Jane Edgeworth, who's the head of the British Council. And she said, so we phoned her the other morning. Jane says, well, darling, I can get them tickets to Cats and Evita and Guys and Dolls, but don't ask for a tour of the Queen's bedroom.
I think that Britain needs a distraction from all the other problems of the world.
I think so. Maybe Margaret Thatcher sent that guy there.
Actually, I like her.
Yeah, I do too.
A lot of people don't.
Oh, I don't.
You don't like
I
her?
very much don't.
Why?
Well, for one thing, she threw me out of England.
Oh, well, that's a good reason. We don't know her personally. The only reason I like her is she's another one of those strong females, and I love strong women. I love doglighters. I can get along with the worst bitch that you ever saw in your life, where other people are just despair. They can't go near the woman. I can get along with her. I don't know why.
You don't like traveling, except going down to L.A.?
No, I just want to see people.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing to live for is people. That's the only thing that makes life interesting.
That's right.
Everything else is window dressing.
Running wild, lost control. Running wild, mighty bold. Feeling gay, reckless too. Carefree mind all the time, never blue. Always he's going, don't know where. Always showing, I don't care.